Three. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Solomon Abrams of the Greystone Dojo. Welcome to this is really the first conversation I'm having with someone at the new space. So here we go. So before we get started, introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Neo Panda.
Neo Panda?
Neo Panda. You may call me Panda.
Okay, Panda. What are your pronouns?
She and her.
She and her. Do you have any, before we go any further, do you have any like names of affirmation or pet names you want me to call you or not call you?
I do not.
You do not?
I do not have names I cannot be called at this time.
Okay. Do you have names you prefer me to call you?
Panda.
Panda, okay.
Unless something organically starts to
Okay.
kind of arise that we can agree on, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the reasons I asked that because I try to be affirming during these sessions, and with this one being your first one,
Yes.
I want to definitely be affirming.
Okay.
But I also know that oftentimes people they may have a relationship or just don't want you don't want certain people to call you, like, for example, good girl or things like that. So if that's fine, then
Yeah, no, those are fine.
Okay.
I mean, like baby girl,
okay.
good girl is fine.
Okay.
I like good girl.
Oh, see, there we go. See,
I like good girl.
Okay.
I do like baby girl. Baby
Okay.
girl's good. It
Okay.
depends on how it's said, right? Be like,
Right.
baby girl, what you gonna be like? Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Right.
Yeah, I haven't had any names off limits so far.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Cool. You said that's your fetlife name?
Yes.
Okay. So for this video, you probably have noticed that there is a graphic over her head. So there that is. But you can find her on, I'll have all her socials at the bottom of this, down below on this. So this will be on YouTube, on the website, and just for like a promo.
Okay.
And so one of the things is to like having these is to just kind of have a conversation. I don't like calling it a negotiation.
Sure.
I like saying that we're going to have a conversation, right? And in that conversation, what we're going to do is lay out the go over ICE from the class.
Yes, ICE.
We're going to set our intentions. We're going to communicate those things,
Okay.
and then also establish our expectations. Right?
Okay.
I'm not a go with the flow kind of person. Unless we really know each other, then we can kind of start going with the flow.
Sure.
But for first times, I'm not a go with the flow kind of person. I am a person who's like, hey, let's communicate our expectations and then the energy that we have in the moment and use that to get us to a predetermined place.
Okay.
So what the purpose of this is, we're going to do a photo shoot for the photo album. I keep saying it's gonna be the first one, but it's throwing down. But that's the goal for this. Also to use the photos, I'm gonna give them to you. You can use them how you want to use them. But marketing and those things, right? And then just to show people that you're a beautiful self. And then my hope to be really dope rope.
Dope rope and beautiful self.
Right,
Yes.
there it is. So before I start rambling any further, do you have any questions?
What is your preferred rope color?
We're going to be for this one. I'm going to be using natural fiber.
Okay.
So it's like brown, and I'm going to do my best as a photographer to light it. But I think that on your deeply mocha melanated skin, and side note, I'm always torn between describing Black women's skin with the food. I read a story once.
Photo or coffee?
Yeah, I read a story once, and the character in the story started off like, well, every time people got to describe Black folks' skin as a food or a coffee, and I was like, man, maybe I should expand my vocabulary.
I always thought like natural honey.
Yeah.
Like especially when I'm looking for makeup, like I look for like honey base, but it's like a natural honey base.
Right.
Plus it's sweet.
Right.
So I mean,
There we go.
I know it works.
There we go. And so the rope is definitely going to be lighter than your skin, and then it'll allow for the two like brown tones to kind of play off each other.
It's good contrast
Yeah.
too.
And then we're going to have the denim. And that's one of the reasons for the denim. And then I added the white shirt. I wish I'd have thought about that for the first few people. But hey, shit happens. You know what I'm saying?
Like it evolves, right? That's the evolution
right.
of art.
But there aren't many. there aren't many things that Black people have in America that you see and say, okay, that's inherently Black. Like, okay, we have the kente cloth, we have afros, we have braids, we have those things. But when it comes to clothing, we don't necessarily have that's a Black thing, right? But I also wanted to keep it really plain and simple. We are in America, and I consider myself an urban American. And so I think blue jeans and white shirts are very American. It's something that we all can kind of relate to. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And so that's how we started. So the color for that will be today will be a natural fiber would be a brown, right? But in general, I don't have a specific color that I like to use. For me, colors have energy, and so when I use like the yellow rope, it looks really good on Black skin, and then but it helps sets a tone, and it's always very beautifully overwhelming. The energy is always overwhelming. When I use red rope, red rope has a really like fierce, powerfully seductive like energy. And so I let that's red, and then green and orange usually are like very refreshing, like fly, really refreshing colors. So there are times where I'll have a color in mind, and then the person comes, and then like how you are, I have all these ideas, I have all this stuff, and it's like, this is a purple day, or this is a red thing. And so it depends, because no matter what color it is, I'll use it until I get to a point where like that energy may be overwhelming and I need to shift, right? So like purple is generally like very seductive, and then if I'm not careful with it, the person I'm tying, their energy may clash, and it just seems energetically muddy. So there's that. That was a good question. Thank you for asking that. That was a good question. So I know we spoke before. I'm just going to ask you some of the questions I already asked. What is your experience with rope bondage?
So I had some rope bondage in a previous relationship where I bottomed. So I was the one who was tied. I was bound at the wrist. He did some crossbody ties. And then I had to sit there for a while, which was fine. But was able to move around later on. So, and I really enjoyed that experience of just kind of being confined. I've done just a little bit after that in the last, I would say, 6 months to a year, where I've done like some knots myself. I've done some self-tying work. I had a friend who did a little bit of tying just on my wrist and on my legs. We did a little bit of power exchange by like tightening of the rope on my wrist just to kind of see what that looked like. And so from there, it just was like, I want to do more of this, and definitely on the artistic side, really be able to expand, like have the corset, like do the butterfly harness, like absolutely like have like the ties around my breasts, right? Doing things like that. I also did some self-tying so I could get some suntan lines.
That's awesome. Like on your body. So
I did tie just to kind of cross, and then I went out and laid out in the sun for like an hour so I could have these very, what would look normally like an odd looking pattern on my body. We're like, what is that? Just to create that kind of curiosity. So if I was wearing a shirt like this, you might see like a square all of a sudden on my shoulder. You're like, what is that? I'll be like, it's nothing.
Right.
Don't worry about it.
That's awesome. Like, they're just tan lines.
They're just tan lines, but they just weren't, like bra line or bathing suit typical tan lines. It was some odd shape. You're like, so I kind of was like, I wanted to like kind of tease outside, but without throwing it out there. Awesome. That's awesome. That was fun.
Have you done a suspension?
I have not. It is on my list.
Would you be open to doing one today?
I would be open to do.
Awesome. Good deal. And so for me, I've been doing rope bondage, Shibari, intimate macrame, whatever you want to call it.
I like that. Intimate macrame.
I've been doing that since 2012. Was that roughly 13 years?
Yes.
It's made 13 years. I've been doing suspension since 2017.
Okay.
I am primarily self-taught, But with suspensions, I mostly self-taught, but with under like guidance or tutelage. Hey, I'm trying this. I took the training I got from being a U.S. Army rigger, air assault, how to lift and hoist and have things like that. I took that knowledge and just basically applied it to lifting a body.
Okay.
So the what ultimately became of that is that how I suspend people is traditionally different than how most other people suspend people. So I have to. So that's sometimes I have to go back and relearn the things that I didn't learn.
Okay.
Because I'll meet people and I may have more experience, like time in doing suspensions, but their way of doing suspensions are a lot more, we'll say, in the traditional sense.
So in the traditional sense, is that where it's more from what I've seen, like where it's cradled, right? Where someone is kind of more cradled in it and then it's like tied upwards versus like kind of hanging?
No, but yes, right? Okay. So you'll see more people tying, so when I started, I did it off harnesses where I would tie the rope, and then I learned to make a different harness. So there's a harness called the Swiss seat in climbing, and then they use Swiss seats in rope bondage, right?
Kind of like with rock climbing.
With rock, right?
Okay.
Exactly,
I've done it in
exactly.
rock climbing, so,
right, exactly.
Yep.
You tie that Swiss seat.
Yep, got that. Get that seat in. Like, okay, right. Got it.
It's all right. Okay, but you have a lot more experience than you think.
Oh, okay.
And so. A lot of traditional ties and suspensions are based off of just using the rope and tying the rope into the body harness and then lifting in those things. Whereas I started using more pulleys, creating more pulleys and things like that, and more lock-offs. So my lock-offs look a little bit different than some other people. That's when I started. Now the community and industry has we've kind of caught up, and we've always all about the same now. Okay. And so it's that. Along with that, although my first partner who I suspended was a small person, was a small woman, I traditionally and commonly am known for doing suspension on thicker plus size women, right? And so, so when I started, this might feel like a really old person. Back in my day, back when I started
this, back in the day.
It was right. It was kind of like I had to kind of make my own way. And now there are more people who are doing it, but it's still that, hey, that may be what's in the book, but this body that I'm tying is not in the book. And then I also learned that, I knew a thing, but then I had it. Now it's a practical knowledge in rope and suspension. Okay. So I knew as a man, this is a person living with women and knowing women, that day to day, the body of a woman is going to behave differently, right? So today you may feel great. You may be feeling very flexible. You may be just feeling light as a feather, right? Tomorrow, you may feel bloated. You may have some aches and pains. You may just you may feel physically fine, but mentally and emotionally, you may not feel the best. And so that how your comfort levels on your body will reflect that, right? Okay. And so I was learning those things. And I'm not saying that small women don't have that. Yeah. I don't want anyone to say that. That's what I'm insinuating. I'm just saying that these are lessons I'm learning while dealing with plus size women, curvier women. Okay. And so learning to suspend those things and with those kind of situations and understanding also kind of pushed me into a different, hey, I had to learn some things differently than what people are teaching. And so now some classes, like I said, they have books and classes. And it's like, rope is for everybody and how to tie a bigger body. And I'm like, hey, you guys are 4 years late for me. So
it makes sense. Yeah. But I mean, that sounds about right? Just in our community anyway, right? It's like the really kind of the sideline activities of where it's like, well, okay, that's great for this group. Right. But
not great for this. Right.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then the other thing that this is also a thing I knew as a person, like you wear different clothes. Like this shirt, you all may be the same exact size, but how it's going to lay on your body is going to be different.
Yeah.
Your body composition may be totally different.
Yeah.
So where someone's like, you got thick thighs. There are women who've come with the same thigh size. Yours may be a little bit firmer than theirs, or the skin texture. So one of the benefits, I believe, of being self-taught, and also being in a different lane, was that it allowed me to learn a lot of lessons without the burden of having to unlearn other lessons, right? And so with that, when I'm learning patterns, I had to learn the theory of the pattern, I had to learn the theory of the pattern and then work on how to make that work with different body types who may feel differently, who body makeups and all those things. And so that's kind of my story. And with that, that also allows for, like we were saying with energy, allows for personality. So that's when I began to develop what I call GlamBondage, where it's very vibrant rope like this, or very vibrant rope on beautifully brown skin, and it allows us to have those energetic expressions along with the rope, along with nice photography and those things.
It brings a whole new character, different layers, different dimensions that you get to add that you don't get when it's so academic and not actually applicational.
Right. And so then it also, like I said, it also allows me to be more affirming with Black women when someone, especially with thicker, curvier, bigger women, and I'm thinking, they're like, what do you want me to wear? I'm thinking orange. And I can see it in their face. They're like, I'm like, hey, listen, I know the world may have told you you're too big for orange, but we finna make orange look dope today. And so we have those moments where that happens. Now it's like, oh, orange does look good on my skin. Or this hot pink does really look good on my skin, right? And then it also allowed me to, for women who aren't as small, who aren't as big, who like, I don't have a booty, watch what I do with this orange rope, like, or this red rope.
Like, let me
they look in the mirror, and they're like, well, I do got some, so it's that. So that's that, and then I did all that and I started using singing bowls and all those modalities. Right?
Okay.
So that is my quick look. What I'd like to go over is our communication styles.
Okay.
So I am a straightforward communicator for this, especially for this. And so with that, I'm going to ask questions that are yes, no questions. However, I understand that in those questions, there are going to be some questions that are very nuanced, right? Okay. So my request is, or let's say if they were the other way around, if you ask me a question, I'm going to answer if it's yes or no, and then fill in the nuanced part, right? Okay. And so when we're, side note, I don't use safe words.
Okay.
Not because I'm some fly super rigger, like I don't need safe words, you feel safe with me. No, because rope bondage, and specifically suspension, is one of those skill sets that if I tie you up and you have an emergency, you saying red to me does not get you out of, it doesn't automatically make the rope stop, right? So I can, if you're suspended and I just go by the letter of the law and just say, I just stopped touching the rope, it doesn't help you, right? It doesn't tell me what your dilemma is. Now, my experience will help me figure out what's wrong, but I think that also robs you of one, your responsibility to communicate, and two, your agency, doing what's in your best interest, right? If I answer for you without listening to you, that's no good, right? And so that's why I don't necessarily use safe words, because I want you to understand that it's important, it's imperative that you communicate what's going on, good, bad, or indifferent, right? Okay.
Versus a hard stop. It's more like, hey, my leg is feeling this, or my arms. Okay. And
so with that also, what I've also learned is that if I told you, hey, if this hurts, tell me in an hour, we'll adjust it. And that's true. Yeah, if something, but let's say we find ourselves in a space where the sensation that you're feeling is a sensation, whether it be painful or not, that you want, right? You you can communicate that like, okay, well, that's right there, because that's, that's part of the overall experience, right? So I don't want to tell you if it hurts, tell me that, right? But if it does, right? So if it's unproductive pain, right? And you'll know what that is, right? If it's unproductive pain, right?
It's kind of like in sports, like, are you hurt or are you
injured? Right.
Yep.
But also along with that, since rope bondage and suspensions and all that has a lot to do with what I call the ABCs. Now I won't be able to remember my ABCs. Airways, blood, and then like circulation nerves, right? So something will not hurt, but we need to know that you should have a sensation, right? Okay. So in some cases, sudden numbness is not a good thing, right?
Right.
On the flip side of that, if you sit on the toilet or sit down long enough and your foot starts falling asleep, that's not the end of the world. Just let me know.
It's a lot of discomfort.
Yes, it's discomfort.
The pins and needles.
And so I'm glad you brought that word up, discomfort. So I like to say, is something painful or is it discomfort? Is it a sense of discomfort? Right?
Okay.
And so that's why I don't use safe words, right? I use like direct. So I'll typically ask you two questions that sound similar. One will be, how does your body feel? This is when you're going through your body, checking to see like, is there a sensation? One, you're basically checking for sensation throughout your body, right?
Okay.
Do you feel in the places that you should feel in, right? Okay. And then, hey, good, bad, or indifferent, this, right? And sometimes with that, how does your body feel? Okay, your reactions, all reactions are good reactions. If you want to cry, that's a good reaction. If you feel euphoric and blissful, that's a good reaction.
Okay.
Even if you suddenly get angry, that's a good reaction. We'll just address that differently. But also, if you are having a physical response, a physical sexual response to what's going on, that's also a good reaction, right?
Okay.
What I found is that trying to block that out, places you in a position where you're not totally communicating truthfully, like energetically truthfully, right? Yeah, so the rope may be doing something to you, and then I've had times where people were embarrassed, so they're telling me to adjust the rope in a way that reduces that sensation, but it puts them in a place where they're uncomfortable, and then that becomes pain, and then it expedite the need to come down, because now they're uncomfortable, and they were trying to fight off an orgasm, what have you, or that sensation, and then now they're embarrassed, and then now it's all blah blah blah.
Yeah,
right.
Everything's just shifted.
Yeah, everything's just shifted, right?
And
so it's So any reaction. The only time, so I feel like I rambled through that.
I got you.
So that's how I communicate.
Okay.
What type of communicator are you?
So I would say I'm direct communicator,
okay.
Where seek clarity, right? Like if you ask a question and I can't give a straight yes or no, I might ask you a question to clarify. I'm like, wait, can you explain what that means? Okay. Or like what would the right sensation be, or what would the appropriate sensation be based off of this? And I'd be like, okay, yes, that's what I'm feeling then, right? To help understand what are the words to some of the sensations,
right?
Because it just may be something I haven't experienced before, so it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad sensation or that I'm like uncomfortable. I just may not have the word for it, so I may seek clarity, be like, okay, explain what that might feel like. Okay, yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm like, nope, I'm not getting that. I'm feeling more like this, so I would be able to explain that. As far as not using the safe word, as long as there's the language to say, this is how I'm feeling right now, what are the next steps, right? If it's not a hard stop, right? Be like, this is what I'm feeling, what needs to be dane? Because I do understand, like with suspension, you can't just like, okay, let's cut the rope, right? Unless there's like a medical emergency that requires like you said, like if it's like nerve damage or if there's like airway blockage, something like that, that would require like an immediate, right?
Right, and you stumbled upon some things. I have answers for you, right? So one of the things I say to people is, say it how it sounds in your head, right? Okay. So you may say it. You may be trying to find the words to say, Solomon, my knee is kind of feeling really wonky. If you just say, Solomon, my knee feels icky. I don't need to know exactly what icky means in the medical sense. I know that knees shouldn't feel icky, right?
It shouldn't be cracking.
Right. It shouldn't be. Or along with that, like I said, I kind of lean on my Army infantry stuff, and if it's something you like, because typically what happens, you'll feel a sensation, and then I'll go, "Are you okay?" And you'll go, "No, it's something." So what I'm looking for is I used to say distance and direction, but I'm looking for a location and then a direction, meaning tell me what you want me to do when I get there. Okay. But if you say it's something under the typical sensations will be something's either pinching you, poking you. There's some level of like skin stretching, or there will be like that poking, pinchy kind of feel, or it'll feel like you land on something, which is pokey-pilly. Right? Okay. You may feel like that, with that pokiness, like something's poking you. You may feel like some intense pressure, like someone's grabbed you, like a what's the term? Like a pressure point. Right?
Yeah. Okay.
And so it'll be that, right? Now, how I can help you in that is I know how I tied the rope, right? And so typically what I'll do is walk you through what's going to happen. Like, hey, I'm going to do this. It's going to be uncomfortable, and we'll work on some breathing and like, hey, breathe, boom, boom, boom. And it's going to feel like that for 45 seconds or so, right? Okay. Until I get you to this thing, and I typically walk you through that, right? Okay. That helps the most, right? And then we just kind of settle into where do you want to be, right? Where do you want to feel, right? And then if I know it's going to be very, like what I would say, I call it labor intense posing, I'll say, hey, one, I'll ask you, hey, this pose will look really good in the rope you're in. However, that rope is going to suck for 1 minute, right? And so I give it 1 minute, or I may say, can you do like 2 minutes of this, right? And you'll say, yeah, I can do 2 minutes. What that means to me is you have 1 solid minute. Okay. And then there may be 30 to 45 seconds up and 30 to 45 seconds down, but I'm just talking you through. And so that allows you the opportunity to like get yourself ready and so on and so forth. Okay. Right? Let me circle back to the second question that's going to sound similar. I say, how does your body feel? But how do you feel, right? That means all the soft, untangible things. Like, how do you feel, Panda? Do you feel this or that? And then I like to ask, how do you want to feel? Okay. Right? And we'll get into like, once we start doing some rope, I'm like, well, how do you want to feel? Right? You know, and we work that way, right? Okay. Also, we may have spoke about this before, with the ladder of, I'm gonna make up something real quick. The ladder of awareness and understanding, I believe that the base of that is safe, sane, consensual. That's what most kinksters know, right? Safe, sane, consensual, then there's RAC, risk aware, consensual kink. Then there is PRIC, which is I'm primarily PRIC, personal responsibility informed consensual kink, right? But I attach TIC to that, right? Trauma informed consensual kink, right? Remember that. Shout out to Coach. So with trauma informed consensual kink, if I do something that is traumatizing and triggering to you, tell me. You don't have to, don't tough it out, right? I'm going to say, what would you like me to do, right? Hey, okay, what would you like me to do? That may be give you a few minutes. That may turn up the affirmations and tell you you're pretty, just walk me through this, encourage me. It may be, can you get me down? Yes. Now I'm going to tell you the process on getting you down, right? Now, I have yet to cut, I cut my partner out one time because she suddenly had some aches. She was like, hey, I gotta come down. Oh, okay, clip, 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 right? However, I'm not against, like you'll speak to riggers and they'll be like, oh, I don't wanna cut my rope, blah, 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 right? Okay, I'll buy a new rope, right? Yeah. However, my goal is to get you down not only as quickly as can, but as safely as possible, right? And one of the things I did find out with cutting someone out is that it doesn't always alleviate the issue, right? So in that, what I try to do is I'll try to bring the floor up to you first, like these chairs can hold your weight.
Okay.
So it'll be, and you won't be up high, like say your butt may be just at whatever the height of this chair is.
Okay.
Your butt may be just at a place where if I lift up a little bit, I can slide the chair under that.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
And so that brings you down. But and so that will be my goal to step one, bring the floor up to you in the fastest way possible so that I can get you down safely.
Okay.
Right? And then we'll deal with what it is at that point. Right?
Yeah. It sounds like probably also is like just like eliminating the weight part
Correct.
of it, right? Helps
Correct.
to just alleviate
Correct.
some of whatever the discomfort may be.
Right. Okay. And so those are the typically, but otherwise if you just, we're not in a situation where you don't have the power to talk as a bottom. Like I don't like my bottoms to talk. No. Please talk. You know what I'm saying? Also
I'm
in that,
healthy anyway, so
right.
that's fine.
Also in that, I am like in the mindset of having sex. This will be our first time. I'm going to be an over talker.
Okay.
Right. So typically, over talking is not the best thing. Right.
Okay.
I'm going to be checking on you a lot. Like, you okay? How was that? You like that? What if I did this?
Yeah.
How's that feel?
Okay.
You know, I know it can get annoying.
Sure.
However, we'll find a happy medium where you'll be like, I'm good.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, okay, you good. But all that you good means to me is if I was asking 8 times, ask 4.
Okay.
But that also means to observe you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then that's the other form of communication, nonverbal, right? So I may say, hey, I put my hand in your hand, squeeze my hand as hard as you can. Every time I put my hand in your hand, squeeze as hard as you can, right? Because now I'm trying to check and see if your nerves are good, so on and so forth, right?
Okay.
I may just tap you. If I tap you and then you kind of like roll your head, do something like that, or if you swinging in a rope and you just like this, I'm going to take that as you're okay, right?
Like I'm happy.
Oh, I'm good.
Get in the hand,
Right.
like I'm good.
You know, but if I move you and your face is turned up, I'm going to not believe your words if you say I'm good. No. Breathe for me. Squeeze my hand. Count to 10. Do me something else, right?
Yeah.
So that's nonverbal, right? Since you've never been suspended, we don't know what we don't know. We're going to get into that on the back end, right? We're going to ask some different questions, right?
Okay.
Right. So I'll leave you for a moment if it just looks like you dope, right?
Okay.
Right. If it's like you good, right? I'm gonna leave you for a moment. If you don't look like you're having a good time, like how I typically can tell that is you're not relaxing, your breath is abnormal. So either you're breathing really quickly or you're struggling to breathe, or you just don't look like you're having a good time, right?
Okay.
I've been doing this long enough, been around people who haven't had good times to know that, well, this person is not having a good time, right? It's easy to be like, hey, you know what? You did good. You did well enough. No one's gonna know these 10 pictures that only took us 2 minutes.
Yeah.
No one's gonna know that, right? What else? Now the flip side of that is, let's say you up, and then however I have you, you feel like, oh, I'm past the introductory phase. Let's turn it up. I'm like, okay.
Okay.
And then before we start, I'm gonna show you, let you touch on it, do a little experiment so you can see the rig.
Okay.
Some things, that's funny. Some things are going to be uncomfortable while you're posing.
Okay.
But you look up, I might have that look on my face like, yeah.
Like it's do it for the shot.
Right.
I do it for the plot anyway.
I mentioned in the big conversation about over talking, right? Mm-hmm. However, one of the things I like to do is find that, like, that's why I ask you, like, how do you like to be referred, right?
Yes.
So I may go, hey, baby girl, how do you feel, baby girl? And you be like, you'll answer. I'm asking you, those are real questions though. So I'm expecting an answer, right? So I may say, do you like that? Like, baby girl, do you like that, baby girl? Mm-hmm. Or a pretty girl or what have you? That's a real question. And so now it's like, if you in that pretty girl space, it's like, yeah, I like it. I may say, want me to lift this up? Like Chili Willy, more lift, more this.
Okay.
It's good, right? But let's say you in your chaotic mode, right?
Okay.
And I'm like, it's going to, whatever ends in the question sound is a question. Like, Like, yo, old mean ass, you like this shit I'm doing? That's a real question, though.
That is still a question, yes.
Right. Yeah. So what your answer would be is the answer to that question, right? So you might be like, just shut the fuck up and lift my foot. That is the answer.
That is the answer. Okay.
Right. And so that allows us to communicate in the scene, but within that energy.
Okay.
Right. And so in that chaos, I might be like, say you zoned out. And then I need you to answer my question, but you zoned out. I might be like, hey, if I ask you a motherfucking question again, I'm just bring your ass down. Okay, that's me saying to you, hey, I'm kind of concerned on where we are.
Yeah.
And if you don't answer, I'm going to take charge and bring you down.
Okay.
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 And so that's kind of also how I continue communicating with you, but without kind of destroying the mood. Is find that energy, and then it might be whatever it is, right?
Okay, that makes sense.
And so that's why I said also, that's why like I'm open to you making assumptions and using those assumptions to address me how you want to address me.
Okay.
Or if you want to reach out and touch me, okay, as long as it does not kind of get in the way of your safety.
Okay.
Right?
Safety first.
Okay, right. Okay. I'm a big boy, I won't cry.
Okay.
I'll just be like, hey, you said that was kind of out of bounds. That was wild as fuck.
Well, I'm back in out of pocket.
Right, that was out of pocket.
Right. Go back in the pocket.
Yeah.
Be like, got it.
Yeah. No, I'm like, cool, right? Like, hey, I heard you. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, like, so like if I'm saying the things or it's like this, right? Now, since we have a communication and not necessarily negotiation, I'm open to continuously communicating, right? And part of that is you asking or telling me, not making an assumption, is like, or just telling me something like, hey, it's okay if you do this, or can you do this, or here's something I need in this moment, right? Because I want to ask you this on the back end, right? Like it's going to be some of the things you didn't like. There's going to be there's the known knowns, the known unknowns, and the unknown unknowns, right? And it's like, okay, you wouldn't have known. There's no way you would have known to think about that in this moment. But now we're at that moment. You can communicate that. Okay. Right. Okay.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other new questions before we get started?
I'm gonna say no, and then in like 2 minutes I'll be like, oh, and then yeah. Okay. But at this moment, I'm gonna say no.
Okay. Cool.
At this moment.